Ecuador has two big games coming up, one versus Brazil and the other versus Peru. I like to think that we're only one win away from qualifying to the World Cup, and I also think that these two games are the most interesting ones that we're going to see in the qualifiers. One, because Carlo Ancelotti just took over Brazil, and the second is because Peru's literally in their last chance to qualify or to not get eliminated. And if they lose in Lima versus us, that would be very interesting. In this video, I'm going to be going over who I think should be called up for the upcoming games, considering each player's context. For goalkeepers, I have Galíndez, Valle, and Cabezas. Galíndez, there's no arguing there. We all know why he should be on the list. With Valle, I think that the recent performances in the Libertadores were good individually for him. Obviously, as a team, Liga de Quito have sucked. But I think that game versus Flamengo, he was key in making sure that the score lines stayed at a minimum. Cabezas is a player that I eventually would like to see be involved more with the national team. I think it would be a shame to only have called him up once and that's it. So I definitely think he needs to be called up again, be around the boys more, and just being able to have an opportunity, at least on the field at some point. For center backs, I have the obvious ones, Hincapié, Pacho, and Ordóñez. And maybe the not so obvious ones, but definitely on my list, I have Torres and Realpe. Hincapié and Ordóñez are going through an interesting moment right now. Now that it's the summer, the transfer market is about to open, a lot of rumors flying. And ultimately, I think that Hincapié, just by the way things are going, might end up staying at Bayern. Leverkusen, it's really hard. I see a lot of players leaving, and I personally think it would suck if he stays, just because all of the best players are leaving, and he's just going to be maybe a big fish in a smaller pond, the way I look at it. And Ordóñez, I have higher hopes that he's going to leave, because Bruges and the Belgian league is just known for exporting players, so they might be easier on finding a move for him. So I don't know. I don't know where I see Ordóñez going, but I definitely like the Juventus idea and the Arsenal idea. And the Champions League final for Pacho is just going to be wild. You know, last summer I got a chance to meet him, and he's as humble as they come, so I'm really happy. I think he deserves it, and he's always going to be a fan favorite for me. Torres is a player that gets constantly called up with the national team, and it's not that he doesn't earn it or doesn't deserve it. You know, he does good. He's been, I think, more consistent than he's ever been with Corinthians recently. And Realpe, coming back from his injury, being a starter for his club in Portugal. And it's not the worst club in Portugal. I mean, I think they're a mid-table club, so at one point, I think he was seen as a future for the national team, and I think his time is now. He might not be a starter, but I think having that exposure with the other center backs and with our top players, I think will do him good to have more starting opportunities in Portugal. For my right backs, I have Angelo Preciado and Hurtado, and for my left backs, I have Estupiñán and Medina. Preciado hasn't had the best season with Prague, but I mean that's mainly because of the injury, but he is making a good recovery. He started the last game and has been getting a good amount of playing time recently, and we definitely missed him. I know that Becachese tried to use Ordóñez on the right, and I think he did the best that he could, but from that attacking standpoint of having a wing back just try to make that run down the line, Preciado is obviously more natural with it. And I also put Hurtado. I mean, he's a starter for his club in Brazil, but I highly doubt he'll get called up because Becachesa had the chance to do it before and he didn't. So he instead chose to go with Ordonez. So I really would find it surprising to see if Hurtado makes the list, even though I have him on mine. And then on the other side, there's not much to say about Estupiñán, but what I would say is that I couldn't help to notice that in his last game with Brighton, I didn't notice him make those runs down the line to the attacking third that he normally does. I saw him be more reserved, and that might just be something that the manager is asking of him, maybe a shift in tactics or considering who they were playing against, asked him to not push up so high, and I found that interesting. But I also had Medina. He recently made his debut. Starting debut. He was in the starting 11 in Belgium. So I think that he is on a good track and we should keep him around. For my midfield, I have Daniel Castillo, Franco, Moises Caicedo, Patrick Mercado, and Vite. I added Daniel Castillo to my list because he's young, he plays for a top club in Denmark, and because we have Franco and Caicedo that for the most part they resolve all the defensive aspect in the midfield, so not so much burden is placed on Castillo where he is more of a developing player. And when we have an opportunity to phase out Grueso and phase out Mendes, I think we should take it. Another not so obvious player, I have Patrick Mercado from Independiente. He has had a lot of action for his club in both local league and Libertadores. So I think that, I think he's earned it. I honestly think he's earned it. A lot of people seem to be thinking that he should be called up, and I think it's the right time. I mean, he normally comes in as a sparring player, and why not just have him as an official player? On the right mid is a player that I don't know if he'll get called up because of the incidences that has recently happened, but I have Yeboah and I have Arroyo. Yeboah has been the best he's ever been with his club in Italy. It's a shame that I also think that they're going to get relegated. It's going to be tough to beat Juventus. Juventus have to win to have their Champions League dream alive, and Venezia has to win to be able to remain in the first division. So it's going to be an interesting summer for him too. Who knows if he ends up staying with them if they get relegated. But other than that, I think he should get called up. I mean, it was just silliness to see him just not even on the bench, but, for that game versus Chile. And Arroyo was another player that was actually with him, sitting next to him in the bleachers. But I think they're both players that have that little bit of flair, that little bit of magic that we can use. And Arroyo is slowly settling in Turkey, but at least he's getting minutes and he's getting confidence. There was a little bit of talk of him going to Santos and some interest from them. I personally don't think that was true. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if something happens to him over the summer. I think too much responsibility or a big expectation was put on him. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he goes to a smaller club in Turkey as a loan or somewhere around Europe. I definitely don't see him coming back to Latin America. At most, I see him staying where he is and probably being taken away to number 10. But we'll see what happens. For the left midfield, I have Alan Minda, Nilson Angulo, and John Mercado. Minda is having an interesting moment with Cercle Bruges. they are currently fighting to not get relegated in Belgium. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a transfer this summer. I think it's time for him to make the leap somewhere else. But other than that, he is a starter for us. He is our starting left mid, and unfortunately he got injured last time, so we couldn't have him, but he's definitely going to be on the list. Nilson Angulo is on my list, and he's had the most consistency with Anderlecht that I can remember in terms of playing time. So that tells me he's pretty sharp. You know, he's convinced the manager to start some games, and I think he should be called up for that. I think he's earned it at this point. And also considering the situation with Sarmiento, with the social media post and with his dad speaking out a little bit about it, I would highly doubt that Becachese is going to call up Sarmiento. I wouldn't be surprised if Becachese uses the excuse, oh, he's not playing at the moment, his season is over already, or has been over for a few weeks. Because remember, Sarmiento is on vacation, or at least he was, and he didn't end the season with the most playing time. So in terms of Sarmiento, I would be very surprised if he gets the call up. And probably the most argued player on my list is Mercado. He is about to play the playoffs for relegation in Portugal. If they lose, they get relegated to the second division. But I'm not going to make the argument that he has earned or has made an impact for the national team. I just still live on the fact that he has qualities that I think we can use and we should use. And I still think that Becachese hasn't been able to find the right way or the right strategy to use him. For my attackers, I'm hopeful that Ener Valencia is going to make it. Out of the pack of injured players that we have, I think that he's the one that might make it in time, so I'm hopeful for that. But I also have Anderson Julio and Elian Caicedo. Julio is someone that I wanted on the prior list, and we didn't get him, so I think that Becachese is running low with his attacking options. Kevin Rodriguez is not producing anything, so he might want to gamble with Julio at this point. And Caicedo, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory with him. He's had such a fantastic performance in the Sudamericana, so it's time to give him a shot. So let's see what list Becachese ends up giving us. We all know that with him, it's been interesting to see his sparring players, and then his invited players, and then players on the Matchday roster that weren't on the original call-up. So I don't know why they don't just do what Venezuela does and just announce a 30-man roster. I think that it would be less confusing. And it's not that they need to clarify every single thing, but I mean, with the tension that the fan base has right now, just be clear and upfront. Don't add more confusion when you don't have to. And one thing that I am expecting is to see Guagua on the list and Pais on the list. These are players that haven't given any merit to be on the list, but for some reason Becachese is going to have them.